September 16th, Board of Directors meetings of the Orinda Union School District. We have reconvening in open session. We adjourned our closed session and we took no action in closed session today. So the first item of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Would everyone please rise?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 5 is our public comment period. At a regular meeting of the Board of Trustees, the public may comment on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. For items on the agenda, the public may comment at the time the board considers the agenda item. For items not on the agenda, the public may comment under item 5A, public comment. The Board of Trustees requests that individuals who would like to address the Board of Trustees on an item do so by filling out a request to address the OUSD School Board card and turning it into the superintendent prior to the agenda item. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes. Groups are asked to limit their comment to a total of 5 minutes, and the board shall limit the total time of public comment to 20 minutes. To comply with the Brown Act, the board may listen to comments from the speakers, but can neither discuss nor take action on the issues presented. Do we have any public comment tonight?
No, we do not.
Great. Okay. So that brings us to our action items. And our first action item A is a resolution, National Hispanic Heritage Month.
Yeah, so we believe we have copies of the resolution and the proposed resolution in front of the board. And we just wanted to say that staff places a great significant value on ensuring that all students have access to excellent education, on all the programming and the curriculum in the district. We also want to make sure that all of our students are successful in the achievement in the district. And unfortunately, we know and recognize that we still have gaps in our academic successes, as demonstrated based on the data, either academic data or social emotional data. So we believe that it's important to recognize various heritage months throughout the year and ensure that we're still continuing focus on raising awareness and celebrating all sorts of heritages as we go through, and ensuring that we narrow these or eliminate these the gaps as we have. So,
and is there any instruction that happens in the classroom?
Yeah, so we have various curricula throughout the year, and this is not just the month that we do this. I think there's a significant focus has been placed to diversify our curriculum so all of our students can see themselves in what they're studying. We are taking on, as part of our equity or committee, excuse me, looking at where else can we add or diversify or implement more of the programming, celebrations, and what else we can do throughout the year.
That's great. Any other board members have any thoughts or comments? Otherwise, it's been our tradition to read these resolutions. And I know, Etta, would you get us started?
Whereas Orinda Union School District is honored to join members of our community and citizens throughout the U.S. in recognizing September 15th, 2024 as the start of the National Hispanic and Latina Heritage Month. And
whereas Hispanic Heritage Week began in 1968 under President Lyndon Johnson, it was expanded by President Ronald Reagan and enacted into law in 1988 to cover a 30-day period starting on September 15th. The day which represents the anniversary of independence for 5 Latin American countries. And
whereas during the 2024 National Hispanic and Latine Heritage Month, we honor the significant contributions made and the important presence of Latinos in the United States and Orinda Union School District, and celebrate the richness of Hispanic and Latine heritage and culture. And
whereas the Federal Census Bureau estimates the Hispanic and Latine population in the United States as the largest ethnic minority with over 60 million people, or 18.5% of the American population, and over 15 million people, or 39.4% of the population in the state of California. And
whereas Hispanic and Latin Americans make up 27% of Contra Costa County's adult population, 4% of OUSD's employees, and 7.7% of the OUSD student population during the 2023-2024 school year. And
whereas the district has committed to eliminating barriers to achievement within the district. and to identify and correct practices and policies that negatively influence student learning, perpetuate opportunity gaps, and impede equal access to opportunities for all students. And
whereas district curriculum development seeks to introduce multiple perspectives to the curriculum and to include more diverse texts. And
whereas our staff will provide educational programs and teachers will make an effort to integrate Hispanic and Latino history into the curriculum this month and beyond. And
whereas acknowledging the courageous fight for the rights, liberties, and freedoms of all Americans, the Orinda Union School District Board of Trustees encourages educators, students, and families to learn about Hispanic Heritage History Month and the heritage and achievements of Hispanic and Latin Americans. And
therefore be it resolved that the Orinda Union School District Board of Trustees do hereby adopt this resolution to honor September 15th, 2024 through October 15th, 2024 as Hispanic and Latin Heritage Month. Great.
I have one question that I'm sorry I didn't raise before, but
That's okay.
the data in here regarding the percentage in OUSD, is that intended to be 23, 24 or last year?
Yes.
Or is it intended to be this year's?
Well, it's based on the last
Based on
year's
last
official census.
That's
yes.
fine. I just
See,
wanted
but
to make sure.
yeah, so that's why it says 23, 24, because this year's has not been tabulated yet. It takes the first week of October.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any public comment on this item?
There's no public comment.
Would someone like to make a resolution that we approve this resolution recognizing and honoring National Hispanic and Latin Heritage Month?
this is that I move that we adopt Resolution 2502, National Hispanic Heritage Month.
This is Hillary. I'll second.
Trustee Shogan?
Aye.
Trustee Phillips?
Aye.
Trustee Wiener? Aye. Vice President Colson?
Aye.
President Hoxie?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and we will advertise it on our websites and in our communication this week for the rest of the district.
That's great. So next, we have item B, Resolution 25-07, United Against Hate.
So the Mayor G has already signed a proclamation from the city of Orinda for the week of September 21 through September 27 to be United Against Hate Week. They haven't had their meeting yet, but they will in October, the first week of October, where this will actually consider the resolution. But the proclamation has already been signed. And we been asked and gladly support the presentation of the resolution to support the city of Orinda in having the resolution and supporting this week as United Against the Hate Week.
It's great. I appreciate that we're doing this together with the city. I think it's really important for our community as a whole, our school community and our city community. So thank you for bringing it.
I will note that we have changed this a little bit so that it's relevant to the district.
Yeah, I
Because-
appreciate that.
That's great.
Yeah. It's a little long to read, but shall we go ahead and read it anyways?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay. Ada, you get to start.
All right. Whereas the Orinda Union School District stands for diversity, inclusivity, and respect for all, irrespective of race, ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, disability, or any characteristic. And
Whereas we reject hate, discrimination, and violence, aiming for a prejudice-free community. And
whereas we collectively promote acceptance, respect, tolerance, and unity, enabling students to learn and thrive without fear. And
Whereas united, we strengthen and celebrate our district's rich tapestry of cultures and perspectives. And
whereas the United Against Hate Week campaign embodies our collective commitment to cultivate a community of support and belonging where all students, staff, and families are included, connected, and actively engaged without fear of hatred. And
whereas we endorse the California versus Hate Coalition's mission to combat hate, prejudice, and intolerance such as xenophobia, anti-Semitism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, anti-Muslim hatred, and other bigoted views by emboldened hate groups and individuals intolerance from our communities, and encourage communities to report hate incidents to the California versus Hate hotline. And
whereas by joining with the city of Orinda, we send a resounding message that we are united in our resolve to combat hate and promote acceptance. And
United Against Hate Week. We call upon all students, staff, and families to unite against hate, join events, and champion inclusivity, tolerance, and unity. During this week, we reaffirm our commitment to the following principles. Number one, to denounce hate, discrimination, and violence in all forms. Number 2, to pledge to stand up against hate and support victims of hate incidents. Number 3, we encourage open dialogue and respectful conversations to bridge divides and promote understanding. Number 4, we celebrate the richness of our diverse community and the strength it brings to our district and city. Number 5, we commit to working together in partnership with the City of Orinda to create a safe and welcoming environment for all.
Furthermore, we urge our community members to report any hate incidents to the California versus Hate hotline at 833-8-NO-HATE or online at californiaversushate.org in order to combat hate effectively and promote a safer environment for all.
Therefore, be it resolved that the Orinda Union School District Board of Trustees is in enthusiastic support of United Against Hate Week in solidarity with the California versus Hate Coalition and partners in our community on September 21st through 27th, 2024, and each and every day beyond. Thank you. Any public comment on this?
There's no public comment.
Would someone like to make a resolution?
This is Hillary. I move that the board adopt resolution number 25-07, United Against Hate Action.
This is Etta. I second.
Trustee Shogan. Aye. Trustee Phillips.
Aye.
Trustee Wiener.
Aye.
Vice President Collins Coleman.
Aye.
President Hoxie.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. And the final resolution, I think, on our agenda tonight is the resolution for the week of the school administrator, October 13th to 19th, 2024.
This is the final resolution. We'll ask for reading. It's okay.
That's what I meant, yes.
The resolutions, we can maybe skip the reading, yes.
Yes.
But we'll have Dr. Inglesby actually present this one.
Thank you. At first, I'd like to say a few words to our directors and administrators here in the district in anticipation of next month's celebration. Just want to sincerely thank you all for your hard work on behalf of all students in the school district. It's inspiring to work with you all. And the hard work you show every day make this a great place to work on behalf of our students. So thank you. And with that, move through the resolution.
I concur with all of those.
Absolutely. We're really blessed in our district to have such an amazing group of administrators and teachers and staff. So thank you to all of you. All right.
Whereas leadership matters for the Orinda Union School District and the 2,500 students we serve, and
Whereas Orinda Union School District administrators are skilled, dedicated, reflective, lifelong learners who believe in the value of quality public education, whereby diversity, equity, and inclusion practices are recognized and celebrated. And
Whereas the title school administrator is a broad term used to define many education leadership positions, from our superintendent to our directors, principals, and associate principals, all shall be celebrated through this resolution. And
Whereas providing a quality educational experience that inspires, engages, and supports all students is paramount for our district. And
Whereas the average site administrator has served in public education for more than a decade, most of California's superintendents and district office administrators have served in education for more than 15 years. Such experience is critical in their work to effectively and efficiently lead our schools and improve student learning. And
whereas public schools operate with lean management systems. Across the nation, public schools employ fewer managers and supervisors than most public and private sector industries. And
whereas educational research shows great school districts are led by great superintendents and directors, and great schools are led by great principals and site administrators. And
whereas the state of California has declared the second full week of October as the week of the school administrator in Education Code 44015.1. And
therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Trustees do hereby adopt this resolution to commemorate October 13 through 19 as Week of the Orinda Union School District Administrator and recognize the outstanding leadership that our administrative team brings to our schools and district.
thank you. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment, but thank you. The jobs of school admins and district admins are getting bigger and more complex, so we really appreciate the hard work.
Thank you. Someone like to make a motion?
This is Hillary. I move that the board adopt resolution number 25-03, Week of the School Administrator.
this is Etta. I second.
Trustee Shogan.
aye.
Trustee Phillips.
Aye.
Trustee Wiener.
Aye.
Vice President Collins Coleman.
Aye.
President Hoxie.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay. Less fun on the unaudited actual financial report. We love it.
Thank you. So unaudited actuals for prior year 23-24. First, let's look at the 24-25 annual budget cycle. We created the budget in June. State enacted it in July. We didn't do 45-day revision because there was no significant changes. So today we are presenting unaudited actuals for 23-24. And after that, we'll have first interim for 24-25. And then we go back to 23-24 financial statement. And then we'll have second interim for 24-25. So let's look at the pie chart. This is for revenues. Orinda receives about 63% from the state for LCFF revenue. And we receive a significant amount of local revenues, which is 27% in 23-24. Within that, 14% was coming from parcel tax. That's a measure A, B, Z. Parent donation is about 9%. And other local revenue is 4%. This is like interest earnings, use permit, all the other things. So next one shows the table. This is combined compared to estimated actuals that was created in May. You see the difference in the revenue, combined revenue, general purpose revenue was 80,000 less. Federal revenue was 88,000 more, state revenue 96, and the local one was 134. And we'll look at unrestricted and restricted revenue separately, but it was about overall 0.5% increase in revenue. So unrestricted revenue, the top row was 60,000 less. So LCFF revenue is based on ADA, but some are based on P2 and some are based on annual. And annual is including like the summer school and extended school year. So that ADA went down. So LCFF revenue went down a little bit. So that is 60,000 less. But then the ADA was lower, expenditure was lower for the extended school year as well. Other state revenue was 72,000 more. This was due to the lottery rate increase. It was about $34 per ADA increase from 177 to 211. Local revenue increased about 68,000. This was local revenue as it comes in, we match the budget. So it's mostly field trips and also capital outlay from the parent club. Contribution decreased significantly, and this has multiple components in it. Mainly it was the decrease in special ed program contribution from unrestricted to restricted. So it's negative number, so it's kind of weird, but it's coming from unrestricted to restricted. So the smaller the negative number, the better. So this was partially because of the enrollment change, participation change, some program participation change, and also there were some reclassification of special ed expenditure from restricted to unrestricted. That is for the maintenance of effort purpose. So some of the special ed expenditure was reclassified. So you will see it increase in restricted side. So next,
There's a
yes.
question.
I'm sorry, can you go back to the discussion about ADA for a quick second? Was that due to absenteeism or fewer number of students overall?
Fewer number of students enrolled. So the expenditure went down as well, but then ADA went down, so revenue went down as well.
So even with the addition of the TK class,
Yes. TK class was based on P2, but the extended year and summer school is based on annual.
I see. So those programs were smaller.
Right.
I see, not the overall enrollment.
Correct. So, yeah, when we created estimated actuals in April, May, we anticipated these students to participate with the summer school, but they ended up not.
I see. Okay. So it wasn't the overall district-wide enrollment. It was really the summer school enrollment that was smaller.
That is correct.
Thank you.
That's good.
So revenues restricted. The top row general purpose revenue is 20,000 less. This is the adjustment to the property tax revenue. And increase, 88,000 increase in federal revenue. This was back in 21-22, special ed grant, the revenue was recorded as contribution from the unrestricted fund instead of setting up the receivable. So we received 21-22 special ed grant revenue in 23-24. So it was recognized in 23-24 instead of back in 21-22. And that's also the reason why the contribution was decreased.
It was really an accounting.
Right, so it was returned back to the unrestricted fund because we received grants money.
Okay.
State revenue increased 25,000, partially because of the lottery rate increase. It was about $30, $72 to $102 per ADA. That was increased, but the STRS on behalf revenue decreased. Of course, the expenditure decreased as well, but STRS on behalf is based on the actual STRS payment. So if it was less, it is adjusted. Local revenue increased by 66,000, 69,000. This was a capital outlay contribution from the parent club.
For
Next
like
one.
playground improvement projects or.
All those things. So next pie chart is showing the expenditures. 84% of Orinda's expenditure is salary and benefit. And the breakdown of it is 61% is certificated salary and benefits. 23% is classified salary and benefits. 8%, I'm sorry, it's so small, I can't see it. 3% books and supply, services 12%, and other things are like about 1%. And so salary and benefit was 81% in 22-23. So in 23-24, it was 3% increase overall for combined salary and benefit. So next one shows the chart for combined expenditure. Salary and benefit compared to estimated actuals, it was $900 less. Books and supplies, about 100,000 less. Services, 357 less. Capital outlay increased. Other outgo increased. So let's look at separately. Unrestricted expenditure. So salary and benefits for certificated employees increased by 306,000. And this is, if you go back, it's 900 less. This is because we moved some of the special ed salary and benefits reclassified from restricted to unrestricted. Classified employee salary and benefits decreased by 22,000. This is mainly because of the vacation payout was less than we anticipated. This is a good news. Everyone is taking vacations. It's a great thing. Books and
It's not
supplies.
that it's accrued and sitting there. It's
Mhm.
actually people taking it.
Yes. Books and supplies decreased about 81,000. This is mainly the tech orders, computer and other things we ordered at the end of the year. It didn't arrive before June 30th. So we cannot book it in 23, 24. It is being paid in 24, 25. Yes. And also school supply fund, it was not fully spent. So there are some carryovers. So the revenue that we received from PC, those were deferred to 24, 25. And the increase in services, 505,000. This is mainly coming from another reclassification of like psychology expenditure, behavior expenditure reclassified from restricted to unrestricted. And also the classroom unit transfer from BASC fund, that was originally planned to be recorded in unrestricted fund, but it was recorded in restricted fund. So that was the change. So when you look at the restricted there was many movement between unrestricted and restricted fund. So restricted fund, salary and benefits certificated, 264,000 decrease. So this is reciprocating with unrestricted side increase. It was just a movement between. Classified salary and benefits in restricted fund decreased by 21,000. This again, it's some of the reclassification, but also the vacation payout. Books and supplies, 22,000 less. This was the supply purchases in maintenance and operation. It was lower than we anticipated. Services, 863,000 less. Again, this was a reclassification of the services to unrestricted fund. And also, again, classroom unit, it was recorded in restricted revenue. Capital outlay increased by 29,000. This is the PC funded project. Other outgo 17,000. This was the increase in the payment to other district for the special ed service. So overall, when you look at the fund balance, revenue increased by 240,000. Expenditure decreased by 400,000. So ending fund balance was 650,000 more. Within that, 440,000 is restricted. So unrestricted ending fund balance was 210,000 more. And I'd like to note that 23-24 was not deficit spending. So after the assignment, the unassigned amount we have is 152,000 when we close the book, which is 0.35% of the total expenditure. And the next chart shows the other funds, how it ended. So the Fund 01, general fund that we have been looking at, overall, it decreased by 72,000. Cafeteria funds, it's 200,000 more, but we are anticipating to purchase the equipment and renew the kitchen infrastructure.
And we have a staff member now.
Yes, this year we have food service coordinator. Deferred maintenance fund decreased by 82,000. Building fund, of course, this decreased. Capital facility fund, because we are expanding TK room and all those, we spent about 186,000. By the way, these numbers I round up.
Thank you.
No.
And Special Reserve Fund, Fund 40, this is the one that we have been using for emergency repair. You see it's increased. I thought it's weird. So yes, we are spending, but the interest earning was more than we spent.
That's good.
So it was a good year.
That was good.
But the summertime projects that were funded with this are not part of this,
Because this
correct?
is to July 1 or June 30, right?
Some of this-
Summer project like PC project fund.
No, we did a lot of the deferred maintenance with the Fund 40. They are not necessarily in this budget yet.
This is looking.
I don't think it was concluded before
Right.
6:30.
That's what I mean. I think
Yeah.
they're going to be just coming in.
Mhm.
But it's good news that we have.
A little more money to work with.
It's nice. Fund balance went up. Fund 51, this is debt service fund. We receive property tax and make the payment for the bond. Fund 63 is BUSC fund. We ended with 108,000.
Which we're also anticipating going down because now we're paying rent or lease
Mhm.
payments,
On the portables, right?
which we didn't last year.
But can we use like this 108 that was really from last year to pay this year's portables? Or do we have to
Yes.
use revenue from this year for this year's?
No.
portables?
No, it is being used for in
Yes.
24, 25. And if I remember correctly, 24, 25 budget was about the same revenue, the total amount we have and expenditure. It was almost net to zero.
Breaking even.
Mhm, good.
Thank you. I couldn't come up with a
Zero,
word.
right? Aren't we supposed to zero
Yes,
out?
that's the idea. Yeah. But so it's,
So this gives us a cushion there for the new employee and if there's.
And OPEB fund, Fund 71. Again, this is interest earnings,
Mhm.
dividend, 296,000 increase. So overview, there was some slight increase in revenues with interest earning and lottery rate increase, but the LCFF revenue actually went down. So this will be reflected in the first interim revenue. Decreasing expenditure, it's several factors, but overall it went down, which helped with the ending fund balance. And many movement from restricted fund to unrestricted fund. So contributions ended up being much less. So we have 200,000 in unrestricted fund. So revenue and expenditure projections will be adjusted with the first interim and brought to you in December.
Can you explain a little bit more about the movement between the restricted and unrestricted and why you had to do that?
We have a special ed maintenance of effort, and we want to meet it.
it's a requirement.
Yeah, but then we don't want to meet too much.
Mhm.
When we eat too much, we are putting our bar too high, and it's going to be tough to meet in the following
Sure,
year.
you're.
So the requirement, maybe Stephanie, Mika, is that if you have a certain level of expenditures in one year, based on the maintenance of effort requirement, you have to meet that
To spend that much the next year.
next year or more.
More, right?
Unless, like, there's a couple of qualifications, like if your enrollment is going significantly drops. So
Yeah, we use the exemption if the personnel cost big with the retirement or something, it changed significantly, then we can use it. But we have to meet the 4 different criteria. Some are total and some are by student. And if we don't meet any of them, we have to keep trying every year. So this year we met all of them. So we want to keep it that way.
So if we set up the bar too high and unrestricted, we're gonna,
Not be
as
able to
opposed
make
to
it.
be able to reduce the cost.
And penalty is pretty steep. So we want to make sure we meet every year.
Thanks for explaining that. I appreciate it. Do any other board members have questions?
Thank you, Mika. The accuracy of this is really great and helpful. And like I said, in past presentations, you basically presented exactly what we all knew was coming because we've seen it before and seen it in other presentations. So great job with this. I think it's really tight overall.
Thank you. And I want to say thank you to Aida for helping.
Everybody needs a second set of eyeballs.
Like to see the savings, so that's exciting. So thank you.
I was curious, you mentioned for the PC, for the classroom supplies, there's a little bit of money left over. How do you remember offhand about how much that was?
Not right now, but I can send it to you.
Yeah, I mostly was curious because one of Orinda's, I was at their recent meeting and they're talking about doing some sort of piloting like a grant project. To, kind of add an extra layer of money to teachers, specific things that wouldn't otherwise fall under that. So I was curious if that money could be rolled into that as well.
Yeah, so yes, we'll get you the exact numbers, but just for clarification, I just want to make sure the district is not keeping as a reserve. It is actually going to be just as part of the supply for next year, and one will provide less.
For next year, versus
Correct.
rolling it into.
So if I give you $100 and I spend 90, next year they'll give you 90 because I already have 10.
Got it.
Okay.
Whatever it was not spent was
Correct.
deferred to this year.
And then they'll just add to it to make us whole for next year. Yeah. Because we're not writing checks back. Right. But they make us whole. Yeah. But they are considering grants on additional. Yes.
Yeah.
Working with the principals.
Conversation about it.
Any other thoughts or comments? Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
All right. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the unaudited actuals financial report?
This is Katie. I move that we approve the 2023-24 unaudited actual financial report.
Steve, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The motion carries. And thank you again, Mika, for all the work. So next we have resolution 25-04 adopting the GAN limit. My recollection is we do this every year.
Yes. So Mika will tell us just about what that is.
Mhm.
Yes, so this resolution comes once a year. With closing 23-24, we are meeting the limit. So we don't need to adjust anything. So that is what we are asking you to adopt.
Any board members have any questions? We remember the GAN limit. Any public comment on this?
There's no public comment.
Then would someone like to make a motion? We approve resolution 25-04 adopting the GAN limit.
This is Hillary. I move that the board approve resolution number 25-04 adopting the GAN limit.
This is Katie. I second.
If we need a roll call.
Yes.
Trustee
Trustee Weiner.
Aye.
Trustee Shogan.
Aye.
Trustee Phillips.
Aye.
Vice President Collins Coleman.
Aye.
President Hoxie.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Angel. Okay, so item F, the biennial review of conflict of interest resolution 25-05.
Yeah, so this comes to you every other year as required by our board bylaw. And we also did not have to make any changes outside of just updating the board names. So if you look on took a chance of the conflict of interest code, it really is that we must follow the conflict of interest code as the
Right.
board members and also the administrators, and fill out the form 700 and complete it as we're designated in those roles. So we did not have to actually make any adjustments to this.
Great. Any trustees have any questions? And do we have any public comment?
We don't have any public comment.
Oh, would someone like to make a motion to adopt resolution 25-05 adopting a conflict of interest code?
This is Katie. I move that we adopt resolution 25-05 adopting a conflict of interest code.
I'll second. This is Hillary.
Trustee Phillips.
Aye.
Trustee Weiner.
Aye.
Trustee Shogan.
Aye.
Vice President Collins Coleman.
Aye.
President Hoxie.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great.
Okay.
All right, we're to our goals.
Yes, we are not a resolution.
Not a resolution.
So these are the 24-25 board goals. The board met during the August 23 workshop
Mhm.
and developed draft goals. Did our best to capture them. And board sets up annual goals to align to our strategic directions, our mission, and our LCAP. So this is really up to a board's discussion to see if we have any updates or any changes, any feedback or any final discussion before the board moves for the adoption.
Great. Do any board members have any feedback or comments or anything they'd like to change?
I always enjoy getting together with you all to discuss this. And this year, I feel like we really drilled down. So really looking forward to this conversation. But I believe the conversation we had prior to this about the goals was really helpful.
I agree. I think we were more specific and targeted with some of these goals, which I think is useful. I think there are less bullets overall, which is, I think, just overall from a governance standpoint, actually helpful and maybe helps drive the work a little more.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with all of those comments, but, and also I think this reflects the work that we did at our workshop as well. I think you did a good job putting this together in terms of, you know, what
Definitely.
stated as our goals.
And I think it is much better to have fewer bullet points and to have it a little bit more concise.
I mean, some of them are still kind of
A little long.
amorphous and whatnot, but I think that's just part of the work of what we do.
And I think we did try to not reinvent the wheel. So these
Right.
are reflective of work that's already in progress. And sort of a continuation of it,
That's
but maybe
true.
a little more targeted, which I think when we began our workshop, we were really intentional about stating, and I feel good about that rather than wiping and just
Yeah.
starting over and picking things, you know, at random. So there is a continuation here.
That we're all aligned, I think, is really important with the LCAPs and with the superintendent's goals. So,
Not doing any changes or, okay,
No, I think you did a great job.
Any public comment on this?
there's no public comment.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt our strategic directions and goals?
This is that I move that we approve the Board of Trustee goals.
Katie, I second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Great. The motion carries. And thank you. That was a good workshop and I appreciate
Right.
everyone being there and all the input we had. So thank you. All right, on the discussion item, mobile device policy in Orinda.
Yes. I'm trying to figure out which one's the presentation.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So last year during the, we had a wellness steering committee, and actually as part of the wellness steering committee discussion, we had committed that we were going to revisit and at least look at our board policy 51318, which is a mobile communication devices, which actually really sounds very dated title. But our
Cell phone
title,
use, right.
I know. Our titles are based on CSBA titles. So, but what it really is a cell phone policy. I will say that this commitment to examine this was prior to all of the news cycles and everything that came actually during the summertime. And our discussion in the Wellness Steering Committee really focused a lot more around social media usage and the negative effects of social media, but there was some communication and conversation around actual devices and disruption they cause in the classrooms. And that's why we wanted to bring this here too. The summer news cycles are all about this possibility of the new law, which has not been signed yet into the law, but it is on the governor's desks, and it's the AB 3216, or also known as the Phone Free School Act. And it was introduced and passed to the legislature, and it is requiring the school districts to ban or restrict cell phones used during school hours. And it is on the governor's desks, and he is supposed to, it's anticipated that he will sign it by the end of the month, considering that he has been promoting cell phone bans or cell phone restrictions. It would actually be a surprise if he did not sign it, but he hasn't yet. Our board policy on mobile device communication was revised just recently, actually in January, because we had to update it based on the Ed code, which allowed some cell phone usage in schools. So that's why we had it here in January, and that was based on some Ed code revisions and guidances. It does limit the use of cell phones already. So even when you look at the new legislature, should it be passed and signed by the governor, really actually wouldn't change much of what it wouldn't require much of a new change. So it really would be up to us and what that looks like. So wanted to just review a little bit that our current policy as it's written, I mean, it's pretty simple actually in what it states, but the staff and the policy, we recognize that there's potential benefits in use of devices, all devices. I mean, we do live in a digital world. I think I've mentioned some of you earlier. I mean, just today, Salesforce, they gave tens of millions of dollars to 2 districts in Bay Area to promote STEM education, specifically focused on AI and digital education. So middle schools and on. So there's a lot of ways that technology should be used in the classrooms in a positive way and what students need it for to actually be successful in current workforce. We also recognize in the policy and us as staff members that there's a lot of disruptions caused by cell phones in the classrooms. So if constantly pinging you and dinging during classrooms and the students are watching things that they're not supposed to be watching and they're texting as opposed to learning, there's a constant disruption. Our policy states that students must turn off their devices during instructional time already. They're not prohibited though during these instances, and that was by Ed code. In case of an emergency, so if there's a perceived threat or danger, they're allowed to use whatever device they have. When a student has a permission from a staff member, so each staff member can't actually have their own classroom policy, which can cause staff members to have different policies from classroom to classrooms. When a licensed physician determines that a possession is necessary for the student's health and well-being. So we do actually have quite a few students with medical notes of why they have to have watches or phones to monitor whatever there is, diabetes or checkings or mental health or physical health and so on. And then when the possession of use is required or allowed by the students with IEPs, either medical reasons or to take picture of what's on the board or to take notes digitally or on their phones or versus by handwritten.
Right.
So our committee input was, which was consisting of staff, counselors and administrators, parents. We had Hillary and Katie as the board members on the committee. As I mentioned, discussed at length concerns and benefits of the devices. Regardless, was it a cell phone, watch, I think we realized that students find a way to use some sort of a device. If we say no cell phones, they'll text from here. If we say no computers and cell phones, they'll text from here. So it is really we've determined it's about education of what's good for them and what are their limits. And again, much of the discussion was focused on the harms of the social media versus actually just having a device itself. There was a consensus for the need to limit the access to mobile devices on school campuses, but we didn't actually make any recommendations of what those should we go any further than what the current policy is? So we sort of stopped at what the current policy is. And then what we really wanted to do is put additional focus on the need to implement educational programs for the positive use of all these devices for students and parents. And we see that all the time, that our students just don't know how to behave with them or interact them in a positive way, and neither do many of our parents on how to help support their kids to have a healthy relationship with the devices. Should the Phone Free School Act be enacted? As I mentioned, it came about from the studies showing that cell phones in schools can detract from learning. They're therefore negatively impacting academic performances. They've also discovered there's some additional attempts to address bullying and cell phone addiction. The legislation would require districts to develop and implement policy, which we already have, that limits or prohibits. And then it would still allow those exemptions that we already have. I think the challenge comes in the implementation. So there are many states, there's about 8 states already that already have these policies, and then there's many districts that have jumped on it already, or several districts. The implementation it's challenging. As I mentioned, it's different from staff to staff, which is allowed. And then it requires this overall buy-in from the parents to staff members, what's good for the student, what's not, what is good for the classroom usage, innovation. So some of the school districts have moved to full bans. You probably have seen it, like the yonder pouches, the magnetic pouches, that you can demagnetize them, and students can use them. And that's costing some of the districts over hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to lock up the devices that then students can unlock at the end of the year. Our partner districts, at the end of the day. We don't take them for the year. Or our partner district that the high schools have just the boxes in the classrooms, and the students put them in the boxes, everybody's labeled, and then they can take them at the end of each period. They still have them in the passing periods and at lunchtime. They just don't have them in the classrooms or to go to the bathroom. So there's all sorts of various storage containers. We don't have any of those. We actually mandate that our students keep their phones in their backpacks, and they are not supposed to have them out. Smartwatches should be on school mode, but in full honesty, that's really hard to implement. We have 2 teachers in here. I mean, would they start every class period by going and checking school mode? I actually think that the students, like if you have parental permissions on your child's watch, they can't even put a different mode on the watch because you as a parent have to institute a mode. So as a parent, you can put your child's school mode on a watch, and then actually they can't take it off, right? So there's certain things that our parents, if they want to do that, they can, but kids actually sometimes can't even change that. So I would say that what we're hearing is there's definitely more distractions with the watches, especially at the elementary, as the students are getting them at the younger level, at the other grade levels. But overall, actually, our restrictions have been largely successful. The high schools deal with way more distractions from what we hear. The middle schools, when you walk around, and there was a survey sent out to all middle school staff members, they did it internally. They actually report it not being a really major issue. The students keep them in a backpack. So really, if we actually implemented some sort of a storage container, we would be asking students to pull them out of the backpacks, bring them inside, and actually put them in there. Many of our students don't have devices. So they would be now like, I don't have it, you have it, who has it? So there would be this whole new layer of complication that we just don't have like the high school does. The watches are an issue, but that's, we've gone through last year. Should we have them remove the watches? Where should they be? Are they outside in the, or do we just go start the school? Okay, everybody put it on this mode or turn them off. What does that look like? So then if you have an IEP or you have a medical note, you don't, are we then checking everybody's IEPs, medical notes? It's just so many layers to this new technology. So far it's become a classroom management. So just like it used to be with the passing of the notes, now it's the watch, right? So it's just a different layer of classroom management. So where we are is that when looking at our board policy right now, we do recommend that I think we can be brought into a little bit more of a current wording, some minor revisions to strengthen the language to support device-free schools, emphasize the need for device-free environments, make sure that we really emphasize supporting distraction-free environment, the focus on learning and mental health. And then we could bring that actually back at the next meeting. And then we really want to bring the emphasis on, communication of our current and updated policy to make sure our parents know that we actually have that. We've heard of other districts bringing in policies, and then we'd compare and we're like, oh, we already have that. So that our parents may not be aware of that. So communicating with our parents, what are the policies? And then we're currently not actually recommending purchasing storage units because we're not seeing that being an issue. But really making sure that our staff has the tools of, these are the policies, let's align the policies classroom to classroom. When is it okay to use? When is it not okay to use? And then we really want to go back to what we committed to during the wellness committee, providing education events for the parents and for our students. With regards to what does that look like? Do all the parents know how to support the students? What are the controls that you can put on there? How can you support students with a healthy, where does cyberbullying happen because it's actually not happening in the school time. It's happening outside, but it's being carried over into school. So what does it look like? Where's the jurisdiction? How can you support your child? So that's where our focus is, what we're recommending at this moment. So we're happy to hear your input.
Questions or thoughts?
I mean, Liz Doust and I actually wrote cell phone policy. We didn't have one. It was before COVID. I don't remember what year we did it. Then it was revised. And so it's not this iteration, but I actually think a lot of the language that we have in our policy, like you said, is kind of dovetails with the language that is coming down from the state. I don't really know how you address the smartwatches. I do think that's a bigger problem in, our middle school and elementary than necessarily the high school. I do think one concern that I have that's not really addressed, it's not a mobile device, but the kids are actually able to be online or communicating through their devices in class. So to me, that's a different concern that should be addressed at some point in terms of making sure that, if you're really trying to limit that access during the school day, that's something else that needs to be raised, but that wouldn't really be part of a mobile device policy per se.
Yeah, and we definitely see that also in high school where they have their own personal devices. So they have their own text chains and iMessages on their MacBooks. Our devices, where are you? Are school issued.
Right.
So they're not necessarily messaging, but they're messaging, they're creating they're finding a way.
Yes.
So they're creating like a Google Doc. So can't I message you on your school given Chromebooks? I'll find a Google Doc. So we'll just create a Google Doc and we'll just message each other that way. So there's those ways. And I mean, I can give you all sorts of ideas. Like there's burner phones for kids that don't have. There's tons.
I don't think that,
Whatever we find, they'll find a turnover. Yeah.
address all of that.
Right.
That's a different conversation, but just something that I think we
Yeah.
should have at some point.
Right.
And it was something we talked about in the wellness committee.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I was just wanted to separate the issues of do we need to change to be in alignment with something that might come down from Sacramento, which is I personally, I'd probably just wait and see what happens.
Right.
Because we're pretty close anyway. And then the second part is our current policy meeting the needs of the district to the best it can? And I'm not hearing that there's a ton of clarity on what we could do that would be a lot different than what we have written now. So that would make things much better. If there is, if there's specific things we could change it to, or if it's worth putting more thought into that, that's great. But I'm not sure if I'm hearing if there's anything that we could easily do that would actually be implementable that would actually change any.
Like I said, I think we can definitely put some extra emphasis in the board policy to clean some things up in there, just to make it a little more relevant.
Yeah.
But I do think that more education to our student and our parent community
Yeah.
is something we can do.
Yeah.
Not necessarily that's not necessarily part of the policy, but I think that's a necessity.
I'm in agreement that we should wait until whatever.
For the
decision is
policy
made.
revision.
Right.
Yeah.
At Sacramento, just to save ourselves time, effort, and money. And then, it's hard to say what good looks like here, right? So maybe, I don't know, was it piloted when you and Liz did this initial, did you pilot it out? Different ways in different classrooms at all? Or you just?
No,
wrote
we
the
just,
policy?
we had worked with, I don't actually remember the entire process of it, but it was not just the two of us,
Yeah.
it was kind of a subcommittee that had worked on it. But it wasn't piloted, it was just something that, we had put together, it was brought before the board, we approved it, and it was implemented.
Do we have any evidence of cyberbullying at lunch or on campus, at other times that are not in the classroom? I mean, is there more we should be doing to try to stop that from happening?
most of the things that are happening in discipline
Mhm.
are when it comes to cyber
Mhm.
is coming in, it's
From
happening
home.
at home.
Mhm.
I mean,
So that
I-
training piece is
does
what
it
really
have,
matters.
as their text messages here? I mean, yeah, I mean, but we're not also looking at every kid's.
No,
so,
no, and we can't
Yeah,
tell them.
so we can't say no.
And not every parent is looking at their kids.
Correct.
Mhm.
We have monitoring services that are configured to detect cyberbullying and other instances of student grief and all kinds of different
Mhm.
risky behaviors. And cyberbullying comes up occasionally, but fairly infrequently relative to some of the other issues that we're monitoring.
On here.
On student devices.
Correct,
right.
but not on their cell phones.
We don't have eyes on those.
Correct.
That's outside
Yeah.
of our jurisdiction.
Right.
Mhm.
But when we've talked to like administration, when they're coming in, it's like even open chats on video games.
Mhm.
So text messages to each other, social media screen, and then we'll get screenshots. But it's quite a bit of it is happening at school hours because then we're always negotiating. Is this school jurisdiction? Is it not
What's the
jurisdiction?
next
Did it carry
school?
over? What's the nexus? I mean, has some of it happened? Like, hey, like that screenshot shows it happened at lunch. Sure, but most of it is happening at the school hours.
It seems to me the most important thing to do is the training. The training for parents and
Education.
students and education, and of course,
And it's just how do we
How do you
reach
reach the-
those? Yeah.
that don't want to come.
Did we do a joint, a collaborative training parent ed with
We
Lafayette?
did a joint parent education with Parent Ed, which was like sold out in seconds.
Yeah, I mean,
Yes,
maybe bringing that
Some-
back.
yeah. yeah.
Mhm.
It was around social media, really like growing up in digital age. And we actually have quite a few of those on our parent venture as videos now to our community, and we can really bring those back.
Mhm.
Because they really talk about, it's not about what device, your kid has access to it somewhere.
Right.
It's how do you monitor, what do you monitor, with the fifth grader versus eighth grader? Looking at their texts if they're in third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade.
Any grade.
Yeah, I mean, as they grow into high school, they talk about where's the freedom, how much independence, what are you looking at, and so on. Yeah.
And I actually support keeping it in the backpack versus, putting a box in the classroom, because I do think that's just another layer of kids like having a moment in school to look at their phone. And so I support keeping that, which I know you recommended here.
My question, a couple questions and then a couple comments, but first of all, I think assuming that this law is signed, I think actually gives everyone in education a captive audience for a little bit because people are hearing about it. So number one, I think it gives, when it comes to the watches, which I think are one of the stickier, trickier points, unless they have to go in the backpack as well, they're going to be physically on kids. But to say we have a no use policy, therefore it should be in school mode, just a blanket statement. And then of course, teacher by teacher, they know the student has permission or IEP or something that allows them to use it. And you can explain that to kids too, but you have an audience to say, this is the policy, it should be on school mode, by the way. Otherwise it goes in the backpack, right? Because we have a no use policy. So it should function like a regular, like a analog watch. And then in addition, I think you have an audience around education, because I do think most of the negative effects are happening outside of school. It could be the second they step off of campus, on a bus, at home, like so many different ways, and no one's gonna be able to stop that, but you do have parents maybe more willing to listen since it'll be in the news. And then with respect to OAS in particular, where I think more kids have their own phones, are they staying in the backpack during lunch or during breaks? And is that being enforced? And I say that, I know the high school policy, there's probably a lot of opinions on whether it's flawed and they're just using them the second they walk out of the classroom. So like, I know I have one high schooler, but a teacher at an Acalanes Unified School District school said she's noticed students are leaving to use the restroom less because they don't have their phone on them. So they're not leaving class as much, but because the phone's now been left in the room. So is that being monitored? Has that been an issue at OAS?
It is monitored and they're implementing it as much as they can. So when you walk around lunch, I mean, you really rarely see students on their phones. We read in the newspapers a lot, like, oh, the phones that are, now that the phones are not allowed at sites, kids are talking to each other. When you walk through OIS, you're not like hearing this weird silence and the kids are on their phones. It's pretty loud. They're talking to each other, they're interacting, they're not on their phones. And administration is actually implementing to the point of confiscation. If you're getting several warnings, we know because we hear it from the kids who've had their phones confiscated. So they are implementing it, but there are 900 of them with 3 administrators
Right.
and 1. So as much as possible. I just don't think they're being, it's working.
I would say that would be the one area to kind of drill down a little bit, assuming a policy comes down that we need to revisit. Just understanding those break times. I think in the classroom, it's pretty easy to cover, but less during that downtime.
And part of that's making sure the students realize you're not allowed to use it during lunch and
yeah,
exactly as well.
Right.
It's not just that you're not allowed to use it in the classroom.
okay.
And have smartphones in particular been an issue at the elementary level, like increasing over time, like if kids are getting them younger or
They're definitely getting them younger, but the watches have
It's
been.
the thing, more the thing.
It's the watches. So I'm hearing kind of stay the course with regards to revisions until we see what happens in Sacramento, but start planning with the educational pieces. Yeah. Okay, that's good.
Is there any public comment on this item?
We have no public comment.
Okay. Well, this item is just on for discussion. Thank you for bringing it to us. And it sounds like we'll discuss it again when the state actually takes action if they do.
Okay.
All right. So discussion item B is the master facilities and deferred maintenance update.
Well, I'm looking forward to it, I know.
Any more pictures of rodents or?
Okay, so we can just, obviously it's the master facilities and deferred maintenance plan, 24 through 28. The deferred maintenance plan was designed to address the school district's ability to plan for major repair and replacement of existing school building components and to ensure safe buildings. The staff is presenting a plan to ensure responsible maintenance of facilities, allocation of fiscal resources. The deferred maintenance plan does not include projects that are to be funded by bond measures E and I. However, the 2 plans complement each other. The plan will be adjusted as projects are identified that would overlap with the scope that is covered in measures E and I.
Can we make clear that we're not allowed to use bond measures, E&I funds for deferred maintenance?
Correct. The deferred maintenance plan, the plan development facility needs based on staff input and building evaluation. The timeline, project timeline is based on safety, long-term effects, staff ability in construction. The budget is developed based on cost estimates. Accountability, the staff will present quarterly updates on deferred maintenance progress. So this is a recap of deferred maintenance.
Everybody has it in front of you. I'm just jumping off for a second to.
Okay.
Yeah. All good. You're fine.
Okay.
Keep going.
We don't have it up there though, right?
I know, it's okay.
But I have it on.
Everyone has it.
I'll just go. Okay, so the deferred maintenance projects, this is a recap of what was completed in 22-23. Totaling 270,444. Some of the estimates we were able to come quite a bit under. The one that went over, the Glorietta dry rot, honestly, you don't know what you're dealing with until you have it open.
Right.
So that's a recap of 2022, 2023. The next page is a recap of the deferred maintenance projects that we completed in 23-24. The big ones there were the repair remediation of the damage that rodents did by getting into siding that was deferred, allowed them to get in. So it was a compounding problem. We had that issue at Wagner Ranch as well as Delray. Glorietta, we had abated the plaster that was dropping under a couple of the walkways. That one came in quite a bit under budget. We were happy about that. We were able to paint the kitchen and replace the flooring at OIS, utilizing the KIT funds for that. So anyway, the projects that we completed 2023, 2024, totaled $330,799. The original budget, mind you, projects that we had identified was $1,525,750. So the remaining project out of those projects that we couldn't get done under this, we're prioritizing. They're being pushed off to latter years. As things come up, we're having to shift all the time.
Excuse me, was that down here at that line you just read, was says 24, 25, or do you mean that was budgeted in 23, 24?
When we originally had the budget, when we originally came up with our 5-year master plan, that's what we had identified for this year.
It's current year, okay.
So moving on, looking forward to the coming year, these are the proposed projects, Del Rey. One of the things we found this year in the summer, we do deep cleaning of carpets every year. The carpets that get toward the end of their life, what happens is we use our extractor, it keeps pulling the dirt up from below. Hey, it looks pretty good. As it dries, dirt again. We've done it over and over and over. Del Rey in particular, we had to bring Coit cleaner in at last minute to try and get them, presentable. So this is something that we did not have on our original plan that is now on the plan, and you'll see this recurring in subsequent years. I'd love to do more than 6, but we're trying to balance and do what we can. Wagner Ranch, this is part of, again, deferred maintenance on gutters that we know that are in bad shape and have been leaking. There's the library building at Wagner Ranch has a soffit that goes around the outside. The canopies come right under that soffit from the walkways, and then the gutters go around it. As the gutters are leaking, there's water intrusion into the soffit. It's dropping, allowing these rodents to get in, and those were the entry points for the rodents. So they have to be taken care of. We won't be able to obviously get it done during school. It's noisy work. So we've gone in with the maintenance crew and we've shored up all these entry points, got them nice and tight, sealed them to get us through the school year. So the plan there is to work in conjunction with the contractor. We'll have the contractor come in, remove the gutters, which will give us the access we need to do the soffit work, get that work repair done, bring the company that will replace the gutters in afterward to do that. So that'll take care of that issue that we've been having at Wagner Ranch with that library building. OIS, there's a section of concrete that a lot of the concrete walkways are covered in the bond, the mod coming up. This section is not. This is outside of that. It's a tripping hazard, so it's something that we would really like to try and address. It's an area that we won't be interfering with the mod that's planned for next summer, so we'd like to get that done. The roof, again, we've had those roofing projects on our list from the very beginning, and we've been pushing them. We did a couple at Glorietta to where we can't. The 90s wing, we had a couple minor leaks that we were able to patch over the years. So the reason I picked this one is it's not a total replacement of the roofing. It's similar to what we did at the big barrel roof at Glorietta. It's a coat, recoating it, buying us quite a few more years of durability of that. We'll see what happens. None of these projects are really slated to try and get done during the school year. So depending on what kind of winter we have, we'll see if there's another roof that might pop up and push this one back. We'll make the adjustment accordingly. But right now, this is what we're planning. So we're looking to try and get about $435,000 worth of work done. So moving on, this is the deferred maintenance plan, updated, 2024 through 2028. It's broken up into the categories. You see the asphalt, blacktop, and concrete, flooring, general repair, roofing, wall systems, and painting. Again, trying to balance it where we can, so we're not lumping it all in, spreading it out. But it's about $6.5 million total.
We don't
I
know.
didn't mean to laugh.
Yeah,
Unfunded.
unfunded $6.5 million.
Unfunded.
Stuart, some of the blacktops actually have come off of this, right?
Mhm.
Because the parent clubs have
They've
taken
taken
it
it.
on. So we just didn't put that as the deferred maintenance because they have taken that on as their beautification project. But truly, they've actually
Helped us.
really helped
They've helped a lot.
a lot.
There were two, the lower blacktop at Wagner Ranch, as well as the blacktop at Sleepy Hollow. Thank goodness for the parent club stepping up, but again, it's not the full scope of what we had hoped to do. What they've done is bought us time. Those two areas were seal coated. They were crack filled and seal coated. They're really in need of R&R, but it was just a phenomenal amount of money. By doing the seal coat, the crack fill, we're, fingers crossed, maybe another 4 or 5 years to where we can try and find the money and do it right. But yes, definitely a huge help. So we've also broken it off up by school. You can see it broken up. Again, the balance there is you try to spread it out where you can, but the needs are not always equal by site. And then we also have to factor in that we're going to be doing modernizations. So, which we'll be talking about coming up. So trying to balance the work so we know certain work we can't get done while the mods are going because we'll be tripping over each other. So trying to, it was a challenge to try and get the best balance, get the work that needed to get done, and looking at the logistics to come up with this plan. So the facility project budgets, 3% of the district's expenses are dedicated to routine restricted maintenance. This budget is currently not sufficient for the needs of the routine needs of our facilities. Fund 40, facility fund is utilized for emergency repairs. OUSD has experienced an increased number of emergency repairs due to aging buildings. We've talked about some of those. Developer fees may be used for restricted expenditures to accommodate for increased enrollment. So we have to utilize that where we can as well. Any questions?
It's daunting, and thank you for continuing to prioritize this for us and help figure out what we really have to do now versus what we could wait to do.
And we continue to deploy the Fund 40 for some of those big priorities too, so that we don't see more damage to some of our structures, which is then more costly.
Right.
So I'll be curious to see how much of this really does shift with the modernization that we, going to be approving.
Oh, when you open up all those walls and modernization, we don't know what we're going to find in there.
And keep in mind, a lot of these estimates, I haven't really gone and tried to factor in inflation on these estimates as well. So we're definitely low on our estimate.
All this off.
Appreciate you staying on top of this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Obviously, a lot of damage has been done by waiting, especially with the rodents. So none of this is can be deferred too much longer. So I appreciate that you've identified the areas that need to be done.
Okay.
Okay.
And I assume there's no public comment on this?
There's not any public comment.
Okay. Well, thank you, Stuart, for all the work on this. And the next one is this Heritage and Awareness Month resolution calendar. So we were noticing how many resolutions come to us and wanted to look ahead and have a bit of a understanding of what resolutions come and what times. And make sure that they're meaningful and it makes sense for us as a school district to be adopting these resolutions.
Yeah, so we'll be brief here, but basically last May during the board meeting, staff was directed to develop 24-25 Heritage and Awareness Month Week Board Resolution Calendar so that we know ahead of time, as Cara just mentioned, for the year, what are the resolutions, what are they coming, and what is the process. So during the workshop in August, the board discussed the purpose of the resolutions, the process of how the annual calendar development works, and then what are the potential 24-25 resolutions. And as a follow-up to the workshop, we had a board subcommittee, which were Hillary and Katie and myself, and we worked on developing a proposed calendar for the school year. So, and we did during that time actually consider several options that we have heard and seen other districts do, which is not having resolutions and having one resolution that tries to capture all of it, which couldn't quite figure out how that would work, or having all the resolutions, which the CDE has like 90, 100,
Right.
hundreds of them,
Crazy.
and which would be over encompassing and just then become very
Perfunctory.
thank you, and burdensome and so on. So it would just be meaningless. So we figured out and try to determine what are the resolutions that actually align to our purpose and our values and our strategic directions. Because it's my understanding the way the board was discussing, the board resolution is a formal way and a formal statement that the board
Right.
recognizes, celebrates the heritage and cultural diversity. It symbolizes inclusivity and awareness. We just want to make sure that we're not excluding anyone either. And that was the whole purpose of the starting of the discussion. Do want to, through those resolutions, support our local efforts in addressing our opportunity gaps in our schools. And we want to acknowledge and appreciate also through our resolutions, staff and our community members. And then we also want to make sure that we're promoting health, safety, and well-being. And then when we looked at them, we were making sure they're also aligned to our strategic directions and our priorities. So when examining the calendar, we actually added, suggested that we add, today we added the United Against Hate week, which addressed some of the things that we didn't have in resolutions, like anti-Semitism, anti-Muslim hate, so the religious pieces that we were lacking. We also added the Diverse Abilities Awareness Month, which we noted sometimes is celebrated October or March. October, we also do a DAW week during that time as well. We added this is not marked with the asterisk, but that should be Native American Heritage Month, which was one of the Heritage Months that was missing on our calendar. So I want to make sure that was acknowledged. Public School Volunteer Appreciation Week. We have so many volunteers, so many people that actually do amazing work for our schools. Want to appreciate that. And then Mental Health Awareness Month to support our strategic plan direction around wellness. So finally, I'll just say resolutions are communicated across the school sites. We want to make sure that we have district-wide activities that support those resolutions as we do already and look at how we can make sure that these resolutions are meaningful and implemented and seen across our community and our staff. We want to develop more resources for our staff and support our schools in having these resources. And then we'll continue developing this annual draft calendar with the board president and vice president, kind of as part of the process during the summer, that we would bring to the board every August so that you have it ahead of time and we can have an approval. So Katie and Hillary, what did I miss?
I think the only thing that I would really just add in here is that when we were going through and identifying which months we wanted to keep or add, we really wanted to make sure, and I had already kind of touched on this, but that it ties to our curriculum as well. So that it's not just a resolution that we're stating and that's the end of it. Like it's something that's actually incorporated into our schools as well.
I think you explained our thinking well. I would say every district, we've looked at a lot of them, handles it differently, as you said, and our thought process was that each resolution, resolution that we're going to support should be tied to our students and our community, specifically and directly. So that's sort of the line we were going by.
I think we brought like more internal consistency to it. To your point, both your points, really. I don't know that we're doing stuff in the classroom for every one of these. I don't know that we have to absolutely do that. I don't know if there's probably multiple minds in this, but
Right.
like with the one we just did, I like that it's, connected to the community,
Right.
and city. So there are probably multiple ways to make sure that there's more meaning to it than just, it's
Right, right.
So certainly for some of these, there's absolutely a lot of curriculum alignment. So
In addition to all that's been said, I appreciate you all bringing this forward and making it reflective of our district. I would, this is extra work, but love to see maybe some presentations by students, not for everyone, right? But something and how it's connected to the work that we're doing in the classroom, or just maybe the demographic makeup, of our district. However creatively, you put that together, I think that would be important for us to see and to showcase here, not to be a performative, but to just, see what's happening in our district.
Great.
Yeah.
No, I'm appreciative of having this laid out like this. I think it'll make things much easier going forward. And I like the additions of the Native American Heritage Month and the Diverse Abilities Awareness Month in October is great. So thank you for the work that everyone did on that.
Just also want to mention which Aida also touched upon, but we were intentional in not doing anything that was religious focused in any of the months here, and said kind of incorporating that in the resolution that we just passed tonight.
Right.
So
And I think that's good.
that was something that we did talk about, but I just wanted.
We don't want to leave anybody out.
That our calendar includes high holidays for major religions that we honor and respect, and make sure our students can celebrate them as they wish when they're on our calendar.
Which is important. Great. Is there any public comment on this item? Charles?
Charles Shannon, President of OEA, Orinda Education Association. I would just address the board and district staff about the LGBTQIA being celebrated in June. Since we're no longer in school in June, I feel like it would make sense to put it in a different month. There are other options. For example, the National Coming Out Day is celebrated October 11th, so that's a possibility in October. LGBTQ plus History Month, it's celebrated in October as well. And we can highlight history and achievements of LGBTQ plus people. And there are other options as well that I could definitely talk to AIDA at our monthly leadership meeting. But I feel that every year when it's in June, we just miss out on recognizing that this is important. We have a lot of same gendered families, parents, and students who come out even as young and are in elementary. We have some kids that sometimes come out. It'd just be nice if they feel like there's a time when there's emphasis during the school year to recognize that we have that as a part of our diversity, and it's an important part of diversity here that we represent Orinda. We even have the proclamation that you read that was just so incredible. So I'd like to see the alignment that this happens during the school year. So just wanted to recognize that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Great. It's only a discussion item. We're not
Yes.
taking action on this tonight, so there's time in the future to
Yes. Yep.
look at other times and look at the placement of things. But I really appreciate the work we did to sort of organize this conversation, because felt like it had just been sort of all over the map.
And I think the timing for the most part in a lot of these was aligned with what the CDE recommended as well.
Mhm.
So, take a look.
Right. Thank you, Hillary and Katie, Aida, for the work. That's great.
Okay.
All right, great. OPEB guidelines and investment report.
Yes, so this is actually why I jumped off a little bit, because I needed to make sure that we have our Zoom set up. So I know,
Yeah, he had been waiting.
I know he is. So Mika will present. But I'm going to admit, you want to start while I? Okay.
So this is for the OPEC guideline and investment report as of June 30th at the end of 23-24. And before I introduce Carlos, I want to share something I thought it was interesting. So back in 2022, the active member, employees' average age was 48.4. And 2024, the average age of active member is 45.2. So the Orinda district is getting younger. Carlos Diaz from Foster will share what he found.
Hi, Mr. Diaz, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great.
I'm the only one talking right now. Okay, so I'm going to turn you so you can see the board. And Mika just introduced you, and I think you are. What should I be projecting? Is Mr. Diaz reviewing something?
It's not, there's no specific
Okay.
presentation that we have.
Okay, so, all right. So whoever's talking, go for it. Mr. Diaz, are you talking? Are you the one presenting?
Okay, yeah, I'm just waiting for the go-ahead, and I
Go ahead.
can definitely talk.
Go for it.
Okay, well, thank you, everyone. Sorry for that confusion. Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm here to discuss the results of the June 30th, 2024 actuarial evaluation for the district's post-retirement medical program. As you know, the district provides continued medical coverage for hire from the district and meet certain eligibility requirements. In our evaluation report on pages 16 and 17, we summarize these benefits and requirements. Under GASB, or under the Governmental Accounting Standards Statement number 75, which is GASB 75, the district is required to perform valuations every 2 years. Evaluation is a redetermination of the plan liability. So to perform an actuarial evaluation, we receive updated census information, healthcare premiums from the district, and other financial information. For our June 30th, 2024 valuation, we included 267 active employees and 137 retirees. You can find this information on page 18 of the valuation report. In 2022, we included 248 active employees and 128 retirees, just as comparison. For each member, what we do is we forecast the promised benefits under the plan. We make assumptions as to future events like termination, retirements, and mortality, and we reflect future healthcare trends in our calculations. These assumptions are summarized on pages 19 and 20 in the report. And basically, they're based on the industry standards that apply to school districts in California. The plan's liability is the discounted value of those promised benefits using techniques required under GASB 75. On page 7, we provide the plan's liabilities using 3 different discount rates. The plan's liability using a 6.25% discount rate is $16.8 million. 7.6 million of that is for active employees. 9.2 million is for retirees. The district has established a trust to pre-fund the liability. The funds may only be used for purposes of paying plan benefits and expenses. The 6.25% discount rate is based on the long-term expected return on the trust. We increased the rate from our 22 valuation, where we use 6%, to reflect updated market assumptions. As of June 30th, 2024, the trust value was 1.7 million. Therefore, the net liability, which is the total liability minus the assets, was $15.1 million. And that compares to 14.6 million in 2022. For purposes of reporting the district's liability on the financial statement, a discount rate of 4.06% is used. This rate reflects the plan's funded position, how contributions are paid annually to the trust, and the municipal bond rates that are currently in effect. The liability using a 4.06% rate is $21.8 million, and the net liability is $20.1 million. Page 10 of the actuarial valuation report summarizes annual costs. These include charges to accounting expense and pay-as-you-go amounts, which are the actual cash payments that the district pays for these retiree benefits. Current charges to expense totaled $1.9 million. Estimated pay-as-you-go costs, or the cash costs, are $594,000. We also prepared supplemental schedules, and these schedules are provided for purposes of helping the auditors and the district prepare your financial statements to conform with the GASB 75 requirements. So at this time, I can go over any details that anyone would like, or I can answer any questions that you may have.
Any board members have any questions? So to me, it sounds like our net liability is increasing faster than the contributions we're making to our trust.
That is correct. Yes. And
I guess
the purpose, well, the reasons, of course, just determine on what the goals of the financial budgeting and financial goals of the district, but is nothing that is alarming compared to other school districts that are our clients.
And because we've only funded a portion in the trust, then our cash outlay every year is this $594,000 to actually pay as we go.
That is correct, yes.
And that's in the budget that Mika has already included for us, so. And is that number projected to increase dramatically, or is it fairly stable?
Yes, I'm just opening up the, on page 14 of the valuation report, we do project out pay-as-you-go for about 50 years or so. This is on a closed group, so it does not consider any new hires that could come in and eventually be part of this projection.
I think the board kind of understands that we put $10,000 a year to try to increase that fund over time.
Right.
But in the meantime, we pay as we go to make sure we're paying the current liabilities for our employees. And obviously, if we increase the amount that was going into the trust, at some point that would start offsetting the cash as you go, pay as you go, but we're not at a point where we can probably do much there.
I do have one question. Are you seeing this across the board in terms of the age demographic of the district across the districts as well? Where you said it's getting younger?
I'm sorry, that the population's getting younger?
Yes, well, Mika said that earlier, but. Yeah.
Yeah, Mr. Diaz,
Oh,
you mentioned that we got younger. Are the other districts getting younger too?
I'm sorry, I'd have to double check. I can definitely provide you with that information as I do kind of a small assessment. But I kind of want to say that I've seen the average age kind of increasing slightly from one year to the next.
Yeah, we were looking at the average age of the active employees. 2022, it was 48.4. And I see 2024, it's in the page 19. It is 45.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, 45.2.
Okay, then I apologize. Yes, if you're comparing, I didn't have that comparison in front of me. I apologize. But yes, then we can definitely break that down a little bit further if you'd like to show that the new employees, compare the new employees versus the employees that may have gone out from the prior evaluation.
No, it's okay. Yeah, it was just a curiosity. I think we're okay.
Yes.
Well, maybe more for Miko, when we're doing our overall budgeting, and looking at the numbers on slide 15, it goes up plus and minus different numbers, but roughly about 100K a year. Are we factoring that into our overall budget, like what our pay as you go?
Yes.
Which is it?
Yeah, pay as you go is increasing steadily every
Yeah.
year. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it's included in the budget.
thank you.
That's part of why our overall cost for employees has gone up from 81% to 84%. That's just a piece of it. It's not.
I think you summarized it well, Cara. There doesn't seem to be a need to revisit how much we're contributing to the trust. It looks like it's been at 10,000 since it was established.
Steady.
And pretty steady.
I mean, it's more expensive to pay as you go because you.
Yeah.
It is,
But
in terms
like,
of
do we
having
have
the
that
funds.
revenue to put towards that or?
Yeah, I mean, there's no money to put towards it, but
Yeah.
it's not
Right,
an
yeah,
ideal
so it would be
situation.
good. Yeah.
It'd be better to fund.
No, it's costing us more in the long term.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to
Yes.
say. Yeah.
But we don't have the cash to put into it now, so this is just what we have. And
We're stuck.
But I think we need to continue to have this conversation and see these numbers, because at some point we may have to make a different decision.
Yep.
Any more questions for Mr. Diaz?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for waiting in our waiting room.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay,
Okay, bye.
thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this item?
There's no public.
Well, this is just tonight on for discussion. So I think good to have that understanding of where we're at.
Yes, definitely.
Keep plugging away at it little by little by little. I know that Vincent and BJ are here. Does the board need a break before we move into measures E&I?
2 minute. Super.
5 minute?
Break, 5 minute. Yes. Thank you. Sorry.
Sorry. Great. All right, let's resume with our measures E&I implementation. And the first item is the measure E&I quarterly update. And I see we have Vincent here to present, so thank you for coming. Sorry we kept you waiting.
Oh, not a problem. It's good to see everybody again. So the quarterly update, we made a few changes to the quarterly update since the last one, but mostly in format. Previously, they were the project budgets hadn't been updated in quite some time, and we had some difficulty reconciling a lot of the numbers as they were set quite early on in the projects. And as we came on, we were trying to put all of the financial information together to get a more accurate picture of the spend. So what we've done this time is we've actually, since we're pretty close to the end of the majority of these projects, we put together a projected spend to completion of these projects. So there's a better idea, which would allow us to budget further for the later items like the modernization and any other projects that the district wishes to pursue. So the original bond measures were there, and this is the screen everybody loves to see, where everything says completed now.
Yes, yes.
So yes, we've pushed through, all of these NOCs have been filed. We are now in closeout in all of these projects, and we're going through final minor issues and items addressing warranty issues. So we are no longer in construction for any of these projects.
It's great.
Great.
Very
Nice
excited.
slide.
Very excited.
Clearly remember, you're saying, I just want to say completed on one line item.
Exactly.
This is like beautiful.
So beautiful.
Yes.
All right.
You tell me where to go.
No worries. So this is the master program schedule here, which outlines about where we think we will be for the modernization project now that we already close out for all of the other items. No need to really zoom in. You can just see it's projected out through the campuses through the next 2 summers.
Okay.
So the budget overview for Measure E, we were at for the student services building, the NPR, modernization, and the district-wide spend. For the student services building, we have the current expended up to the last budget or up to the last update that we had, and the current encumbrance. We're projecting about 14.5 million. So there is a $34,000 difference in there, which is relatively minor. Nothing to be terribly concerned about. For the multipurpose room, there is that 269K above and beyond, which was, as the last board meeting we discussed, was the change order that was approved that was above what was originally expected. So that is what accounts for that. For modernization, 17 million obviously is because we haven't approved anything yet. So that will obviously be taken up by the next item if we approve the modernization project. And then district-wide spend is self-explanatory. For measure I, same with the HVAC. We had the current encumbrance and the expenditure. The projected total expenditure was 25,900,000. Which means we'll have an additional 444,000 to reallocate to the modernization, which came back through parts of the some contracts that did not need to be spent down, and the deductive change order that was approved also last time of the roughly 350K, and then district-wide again, self-explanatory. So this is the total projected spend for the project budgets. So what we've done here is we've included the modernization pricing in the projected total expenditure, so the numbers make a little bit more sense. So currently, based on what we have expended and what is currently encumbered, combined between the two, there is 41.5 million remaining to put towards modernization projects.
Okay. Where it says funding balance columns do not account for accrued interest through 2026.
Yes, so
What
that
does
only
that
accounts
mean
for
to
the-
us?
oh, sorry.
I guess my question is, we know we are earning interest on the money. Is that money that at some point will actually be available to the district to spend?
Yes, so this is only current accrued interest up to the end of the quarter, so July 1st, the end of the fiscal year. There will obviously be accrued interest further on, but since we don't know the exact amount and how much we'll spend down from there, we're just not including it for the time being, which allows us to be a bit more conservative in our estimates. Ultimately, the district will have obviously much more room to move with additional modernization projects beyond the district-wide modernization that we're going to discuss later.
So I'm sorry, Vincent, so that $41 million, 41.5 includes interest
Up to
up
the end of the
to,
fiscal year.
correct.
Yes.
But there'll still be some.
It'll be still more,
There'll
but I'm
be even
just,
more
yeah,
to
it's
come.
within
Right.
that,
now.
it's
And
already
then
there.
Once we get to complete project closeout, obviously those numbers will change
Yeah.
a small bit to give us a more accurate picture. But as of right now, they're beyond what we estimate the district-wide modernization project to cost. There will be an additional 2.3 million for other projects outside of that,
Got it. That's unbudgeted.
unbudgeted.
That's nice.
Okay.
Right. So for the project updates, there's a whole lot of completed again.
That's so
So
nice.
Sleepy Hollow multipurpose room, updated photos of all the areas. It is completed, currently in closeout. So that is the lower campus, classroom 17 and 18. Those were the portables that were supposed to move up to the upper campus, but are now permanent in the lower campus. Photo of the mural at the NPR, the new landscaping area by the new elevator, new VAST portables, and the new concrete walkways around the portables.
Great.
And
Sure,
this
just
is
keep moving
the
on.
financials for the multipurpose room, as we discussed before, that overage from the change order that was approved at the last meeting.
Okay.
Get the elevator lock thing fixed.
So
We're
we are
waiting.
working on that. Elevator vendors are a difficult bunch. But we have assurance that they will come. It is on the books. We are getting that addressed currently. So for the student services building, it is currently enclosed out as well. Obviously, we did have a roof penny, so just photos of the updated exterior and interior of the building.
Looks nice.
So we are currently paying out the lease payments on this project, so we have pretty much an exact idea of what we'll be spending on this. With the exception of the soft cost, the remaining billings from the engineers, inspectors, and other agencies that we have yet to close their POs out, but we expect an additional $34K to come back.
Great.
And all of the HVAC and mechanical and electrical upgrades are completed now and in closeout as well.
That's great.
So we are walking through those now and bringing back, addressing all the items, getting the warranties together, and closing out any remaining items with the state DSA. The balances are somewhat of an estimate because they're split. We have the one main contract, but they're split between 5 separate POs. So it was just evenly distributed. So the remaining balance to pay out on them is lease payments that are currently in process.
That's great.
So the modernizations, the meat of it now. So this is our estimate currently divided between all 5 campuses based on the proposal we received from Rodan. So that is our estimated or projected expenditure per campus minus what has already been expended and encumbered currently.
So do I read this right? If we have 41 million available and this cost is 39 million and change, we have enough money to do what we're planning to do for the modernization?
Yes, that's up.
That's good.
But the OIS 30s is not, it
It
is
is not part of this.
correct.
At all.
That additional 2.3 then that you mentioned, that would need to be.
I thought some painting or something
That
was.
would end up going more than likely to the 30s. million.
Yeah. That's on top of the modernization.
Okay.
That project is not here
That project is not here. Okay.
because we haven't designed it yet.
Mhm.
So there goes that.
I think it's been that much, maybe. Okay. Then there's the interest. Okay.
Any questions for Vincent on this?
No, thank you for breaking it down like this though, and really
Much easier to understand.
reconciling all the numbers for us because it makes it so much easier to understand.
The budget, the old budget numbers, we had a hard time reconciling as well. We didn't know where the data came from, so we tried to just make it simpler.
It's much better.
Very helpful.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
And very exciting. We've actually accomplished quite a bit.
But we don't have a timeline for that 30s for designing that.
We're starting to gather up now.
We are.
Yes. So it's happening.
Would the budget for that basically be what's left over or scale back a bit to make
About
sure we
one
get it done?
Well, it depends what you do on the next agenda item.
Right.
Yes.
But that's the,
But it's
that's
about
the
1.8.
idea.
Yeah. Up to, depending, yes.
Okay.
Up to, okay.
Okay, so that takes us, unless there are any other questions or public comment, then we'll go on to the guaranteed maximum price for the OUSD modernization project.
Right. So for the modernization project, this encompasses all of the modernizations, the windows.
Can you
the
tell me what
installation.
would you like me to project?
We can actually just take a look at right there, the first
This thing?
attachment.
Sorry.
They have
Okay.
and then we can actually jump straight to their summary page and we can just walk through that.
Which is page?
It's page 5 or 6.
Okay.
Right there.
This,
You can zoom in on those numbers by canvas.
like that?
Yeah, I think we can keep going until we get the first 6 columns.
I actually cannot keep going.
Oh, okay.
That's as far as the computer will let me.
Well, I hope everybody else can
Hmm?
see. Can you zoom on the front?
Oh, this is it.
Okay.
Good luck.
Okay. So hopefully everybody here has it in front of them.
Yeah. Yes, they,
So this is the breakdown that we received from Rodan on the guaranteed maximum price for the modernization project, broken down by campus. Further above that, it would be broken down by trade and item.
Mhm.
So roofing, grading, concrete, et cetera, et cetera. But focusing so much on the actual direct construction costs, during our discussions with Rodan and following the update with the BET, we had some additional conversations with HKIT and their engineers. There were some previous issues in other campuses like Delray and OAS where the soil underneath the pavement is soft. And multiple times, just like at Wagner Ranch and the path of travel work, required over excavation to actually bring in extra soil to replace it because it was too soft. And you couldn't compact it, and the ground would eventually shift when you try to put anything on it. That seems to be a recurring condition in several campuses. So we did request that they go from their original 7% contingency to an 8.75% contingency to factor in for that. The remaining 7% contingency was requested to be put in to cover obviously existing conditions that we do not know about. Anytime you open up a wall in a building, you just don't know what's in there. We've already seen dry rot conditions in certain areas and certain campuses. So we wanted to make sure there was a sufficient amount to cover for that. With that, that 8.75% contingency and their guaranteed maximum price, there was some value engineering done between the district and HKIT to reduce the cost to allow us to put some additional items into the contract. So there were several windows that were already brand new at Wagner Ranch that netted us about $500,000 to take those out of the contract. And what that allowed us to put in within our budget was replacing all of the doors in all campuses.
Oh, that's great.
So there are several issues with, there was only going to be replacement of specific doors that were going to be affected by the scope of work, not all of them. Most of the doors are wood, some of the frames are warped. The main issue being that if we did not replace all of the doors at one time, they would have to be replaced piecemeal as they failed over time, which actually ends up being more expensive in the long run.
Right.
So if it was within the capacity to do it now, not to mention you're getting a superior product. They're wood door, wood frame. These are metal doors, metal frames, less prone to warping, damage, issues like that. And not to mention you'd have a new door, old door, new door, old door. It just looks bad. So there was that as well.
And then part of that, if I can jump in there too, Vincent, and makes it there's a lot of ADA upgrades. There's a lot of the concrete that I talked about, the walkways, much easier to tie into a new opening. New opening, bad opening, it makes it more uniform, and it just in looking at the overall view and how everything kind of interrelated, that's why we went down that road with replacing all the doors.
That's a good call.
I see that the hardware for the doors, it's included with the doors. Is that just basic locking mechanism then with our doors? Is that what we
Yes, it would match existing, and they would be set to receive the same cords as everything else in the district already.
Meaning the required inside locking. Okay, so thank you. That was actually, so we have quite a few old doors with the bars. Those would be gone.
Yes.
And it's a regular.
Correct. They would all be brought up to date
Yeah.
in code and current standards with the district.
Great, thank you.
That's
It's a big safety.
Right, that's why.
Discussion recently.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
So
And then one additional item were the play lot at Delray. There were trees that would need to be removed when doing some of the work. And it was a relatively small amount to actually replant new trees there. So we included that as well.
a lot less than putting in shade structures, which
Right.
would be tremendous amount.
Right.
And
But we have to
gives you the
remove them.
option to choose trees that don't create such a mess every season.
Or have such root issues.
That was great.
Right. That's good.
So with that, we have a total guaranteed maximum price of, I actually can't see that number.
34,924,531.
But that doesn't include the soft costs and everything else. That's just the builder
That
cost.
is just the builder cost.
Mhm.
So we did include with this a budget analysis for the bond to see how it factors in with
Right.
our estimates for soft costs and a district held contingency as well.
Mhm.
So in the event that there are any sort of overruns, the district will also hold $1 million in reserve.
Right.
It's 3.25%, so it'd be a total contingency overall of 12%.
That's good.
And additionally, with that 12% contingency, the 3.25% held by the district after the first year, half the campuses will be done. So it will be Delray, Glorieta, and half of OAS. At that point, we could discuss again and we would determine if the district health contingency is unnecessary or a portion of it is unnecessary, we have a much better idea at that point. That can also be either some or all can be reallocated to an additional modernization project. So it is not necessarily, it's not money you can't touch. We just happen to earmark it for this should anything happen.
I think that's smart. You don't want to get overextended and
No, I think it's
finished. It's
Yeah.
a much better way to go.
Contingency for sure.
Yeah, I'm just trying to make sure, I'm tracking all the math. So there's what, 18 million left in E and 23.5 million of balance in I for modernization. So, so we've got about 41, so 35 plus the 10% contingency, but that
And the
sounds
soft
very,
costs.
that sounds low for contingency and soft costs. Didn't our soft costs run?
25% or something. But a lot of the soft costs are done.
A lot of
Right, so
soft
they're
costs are
already,
actually-
Yeah,
in
because
design
the
has already
architect
been
and stuff has been done.
expended. So it would be calculated as soft cost based on just the construction phase, which is what we're looking at now. Which would be about 10%, which is what was accounted for.
Because most of the soft costs are
Upfront.
architect, and that's already,
That's already been expended and
Because
encumbered.
it's already gone to DSA, right?
and the DSA. So really, a lot of it is construction management now that's remaining. I mean, clearly some architectural coming in, but
but it's
for the
mostly
most of it has already been done. Yeah.
It'd be like inspections,
Inspections, yeah.
special inspections, testing,
Right.
IOR, inspector record, things like that.
You feel confident that we have, I mean, to Eve's point,
Enough money.
enough money for the soft cost, and it's
Yes.
built in, okay.
Stuart, when we have all that balancing with the HVAC,
It's very refreshing, actually.
are we gonna have to redo all of that with the new doors and windows and insulation and stuff? Is it gonna change how that all works?
If it changes, it's going to change to the good.
Okay,
We might be able to even tighten up our damper positions even tighter, which will make them run more efficiently. So if anything, it'll go good. We don't need to bring anybody in to rebalance. It's something that we can do in-house.
okay, that's good.
That's reassuring.
And then additionally, if you wanted to do the math, roughly 5% of this would be financed based on, because it's a lease back. So it'd be about 1.7 million financed over 12 months at the end of the project. So that could be depending on that. I mean, that would accrue for more interest or money you could spend now or fund later. Just if you wanted to keep that in the back of your head.
And we had good experience with Rodan on the other projects they did for us, correct?
Yes, they were very forthcoming in correcting the issues and working with the district to reach an amicable resolution. They did not overspend or try to work their way through the contingency as quickly as possible.
That's good.
So we've had lots of good experience working with them on other projects as well. So
Good.
we have the utmost confidence that they'll do a great job.
When we did the interview process, part of it, we had some really pretty candid discussions as far as here's what we witnessed on the HVAC electrical upgrade projects, as far as who they had, the superintendent they had running it, for example, was running all over the place. They're going to have a superintendent in charge of the site superintendent, so there will be accountability at each site. Where they ran into issues with the HVAC was they had one electrical contractor, they went one mechanical. So when there's a manpower issues, it was pretty obvious. You could see a bunch of people here and none here. There was a lot of that going on. These are all concerns that we raised, and they had an answer for every one of them. The thing that impressed me is they took accountability. Yep, that's absolutely what was happening. And we're going to do what we can to make sure that doesn't happen moving forward. So it's kind of a good lessons learned thing. And I felt really good after that process.
You just feel good about the timeline?
Yes,
It's a lot of windows and doors.
In 10 weeks.
it is.
Time, 9 weeks.
9, not 10.
During the review, they were very forthcoming about how they were planning on scheduling and breaking down their subcontractors in order to meet that deadline, and how they would, what their labor contingencies were should they have a non-performing subcontractor.
Okay,
So we are confident they can meet the deadlines.
because it's hard to have kids in the classroom with no
Hard to have
window
normal doors, yeah.
or door.
So there is no missing the deadline here. You can't
That's what we're trying to say. There's no missing the deadline.
There's no
But that's why it's
3 months.
good to hear you have confidence in the contractor. That we have to rely on, what they say.
Follow-up question. Thank you. First of all, I think it's great if you already know the contractor and feel confident about it. That goes a long way in my book. I was trying to weed through here because I couldn't remember what the decision was about where the old HVAC systems were.
Oh,
Is it
the
closets?
closet.
They are coming out, right? With
Yes,
new carpeting going down, so it creates space in the room. That is part of this.
correct.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I was looking for, couldn't find it.
It's not recarpeting the whole room. It's like,
Yeah,
like a
that's
corner. There'd be a quiet corner kind of spot in the rooms.
But better than leaving.
Right.
That
Closet,
doesn't serve a purpose.
an empty closet.
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to bring in electrical in there or space or shelving. That would be much more expensive than removal of it.
Even aesthetically outside, it's going to look nicer with the windows.
Yep.
And it includes painting and,
Well, with so much removal, we
Right.
have to.
right. But I mean, the whole goal is to leave the campuses when we're done nicer looking than when we started. And so we're going to make sure that we return the campuses and, nice. Any other thoughts or questions? on the Board, is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Would someone like to make a motion that we approve the guaranteed maximum price package from the Rodan Builders for the modernization projects at OAS, Delray, and Glorieta, Wagner Ranch, and Sleepy Hollow?
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the guaranteed maximum price package from Rodan Builders for the modernization project at OIS, Delray, Glorieta, Wagner Ranch, and Sleepy Hollow.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Great, the motion carries. Thank you, this is exciting.
Thank you all.
Vincent.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
It's great.
Okay.
All right, next we have a change order for AT&T for Sleepy Hollow.
As part of the NPR project at Sleepy Hollow, a new utility pole was installed. There were a number of utilities on that pole, one being AT&T. Them being the last to do their work, they were responsible to remove the pole. So AT&T gave us an estimate of $17,299.11 to do the work, to bring in, to remove existing cable, bring in the new cable, and remove the old pole. That was just an estimate. The actual cost ran $1,799.92 over that. So we need to get a change order to close this project out.
Anyone have any questions?
It's pretty straightforward.
No,
Yeah.
There's no public comment. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the change order?
This is Eve. I move that we approve the change order from AT&T.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great, that passes. Now we're on to the Bay Alarm for Sleepy Hollow portables.
This is regarding the two portables at the end, P3 and P4. Originally, when the project started, they were deemed temporary. We could utilize them kind of as were with a temporary condition. Now that they're permanent, DSA had some issues with the fire alarm. So they're requiring an upgrade. So following a meeting that HKIT, the fire alarm engineer and the construction management team, the scope was redefined. The new system, sensor ceiling mounted speakers, wall strobes, outdoor wall mounted speakers, and replacement of smoke detectors and heat detectors needed to be done. In order to close this project out, we need to get Bay Alarm in to do this work. So we're recommending that you approve this work for $24,950. So we can have permanent portables.
Yay. Does anyone have any questions? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure. This is Hillary. I move that we approve the agreement from Bay Alarm Company for the installation of new fire alarm devices at portables P3 and P4 at Sleepy Hollow.
This is Eve. I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, motion carries. Now we have a proposal from Shade Tech Inc. for OIS.
As you might have recalled, when we talked about the student services building, we did not include roller shades as part of that project because if it went through DSA, every one of them would have needed to be motorized, it would have just blown the budget up. So now that we're done and in the closeout process, I've gone out and got quotes for shades for the windows. I've walked the site with the administrators. Not every window needs a window shade, so we've gone and identified which rooms we feel need the shades. They're manual shades. This is the same company that did the shades, the electric shades at the Wagner Ranch gym. So I was really happy with the product they delivered, the work they done. So I had a lot of confidence in them. We're trying to match as close as we can the shades that are. There was one set of shades in the main office up at the kind of clear story windows there. To just kind of keep continuity throughout. Assured that they are fire resistant. Our fire department shouldn't have a problem with them at all. So this is the recommendation to go ahead and have these shades installed for $11,751. 91. I got to get my glasses. 51. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions about the shades? And there's no public comment. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the shades?
This is that I move that we approve the Shade Tech Inc. proposal to install Willow shades in the Student Services Building at OIS.
Z by second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great. That motion carries. Now we're on to the notice of completion ADA compliance path of travel and restroom upgrades project at Wagner Ranch.
Yep, this is similar to the ones we've done in previous meetings. This job is substantially complete. So we'd like to go ahead and get the notice of completion. It's not something we're mandated to do. It makes it easier for the contractor to get everything closed out. So the recommendation is that you approve the notice of completion for the ADA compliant path of travel project at Wagner Ranch.
Does anyone have any questions? No. There's no public comment. Would someone make a motion to approve the notice of completion at Wagner Ranch?
So that I move that we approve the notice of completion for the ADA compliance path of travel and restroom upgrades at Wagner Ranch.
This is Z by second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, that motion carries. Now the notice of completion for the interior work for the Sleepy Hollow Basque Building.
Yep. The Bass building was interesting as far as, some of it was all over the place. So this part here was to get the interior casework, some of the plumbing, things like that done as well. That is complete. We'd like to go ahead and get that notice of completion filed as well.
Anyone have any questions? All right, would someone like to make a motion to approve the notice of completion for the Basque buildings at Sleepy Hollow?
This is Eve. I move that the board approve the notice of completion for the interior work at the new Bass building in Sleepy Hollow.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Great, the motion carries. Next, we have H, the change order for Macmillan Data Communications.
Kevin?
So this is you may recall that we entered into a contract with Macmillan Data Communications MDC for district-wide network upgrades, district-wide security camera upgrades, and the Glorietta clock speaker upgrade. During the course of the project this summer, they encountered various unforeseen conditions or owner requested changes. So this change order consists of 6 PCOs, or potential change orders. The first of which, PCO 3, involves the installation of additional conduit to provide power and data to the cameras out of the solar array at Wagner Ranch. PCO 4 has to do with the security camera system. We ended up going with Verkada, as you know, and we made a few changes to the camera model depending on the context. In some cases, we felt that the bullet camera would suit the purpose better, or what's called a multi-sensor, which is several cameras in one unit to give us a better perspective in certain areas. And we also felt that it would be best to align the licenses with the expected lifespan of the camera. So we bumped the licenses from 5 years to 10 years. PCO 7 has to do with hardwiring the marquees at Glorieta and Wagner Ranch. The purpose of this is to take advantage of the fact that we were already opening up conduits and trenching in some cases. So if we have an opportunity to hardwire the marquees to improve the reliability of the devices, we felt that was a good opportunity to do so. PCO 8 has to do with the installation of a particular type of cabling to allow us to streamline the Wagner Ranch network. As you may recall, we're trying to simplify the network and remove IDFs where they weren't necessary. So this cabling allows us to streamline the administrative buildings network. PCO 9 has to do with the use of game changer cables to run out to workspaces used by facilities maintenance and operations. These spaces are kind of out there in relative terms in terms of where they're located in the campus at their respective campuses. So we needed an upgraded cable to get data out to those spaces. And then PCO 12, this was to procure endpoint licenses for the InformaCast PA system platform. As you know, Glorieta had their PA system upgraded this past summer, so we needed licenses to make sure those devices are managed and registered. So the staff is recommending the approval of this change order, which incorporates all those PCOs. Cost is $69,093.53.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about any of those?
Just that on the total cost is about 3% of the construction. And am I remembering correctly that the original kind of bid on this was less than we had originally budgeted? So we're still under the budget for
We are,
this,
indeed.
despite the changes.
Memory, yes.
Yes. So the budget was $2.1 million to $2,150,000.
Okay.
The bid came in at, got that number, $1,888,000.
Even with this.
$884,465. So we're still well within
Original
the
budget.
original budget.
That's great. Yeah, these changes make sense. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. I don't think we have any public comment. If there are no other questions from the board, would someone make a motion to approve the change orders?
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the Macmillan Data Communications change order in the amount of $69,093.53.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No? Great, motion carries. All right, we got through them all. That's good. So now we're on to our board policies. Items listed under the board policy section are typically updates and new policies or administrative regulations that have been recommended by the California School Boards Association. These policies are generally acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There's no discussion of specific policies before the board vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items be discussed and/or removed from the board policy section. It is understood that the administration recommends approval of all board policies as presented. Each item in the board policy section approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. Does anyone have any board policies they'd like to pull? We have no public comment. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the board policies?
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the board policies.
This is Eve, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No one is opposed, so that passes.
Thank you.
Great, and we're on to communications and announcements. Is anyone? Mr. Sheehan.
Well, hello, Charles Shannon, President of Orinda Education Association. I'll make this quick. I'm looking at the clock. We might be looking at 8:30. Throughout our campuses, we have a joyful buzz going on, learning and just teachers working their magic. We were saying that earlier. We're just so excited. So we're well into the school year. We've done about 5 weeks. We're coming up on long-range planning. We have the bites and insights that Sarah Costalandri, our curriculum director, is going around to each of the sites and connecting with us and finding out what our needs are, how we can be best supported so we can do our very best for students. So we're just super excited about you coming on board. And we love that. That was very catchy, bites and insights. We loved it. So we're looking forward to those of us that have not had yet. I'm looking forward to that. And we just think things are going really smooth. we think it's because we're just all working together, it's beautiful relationships happening to make this district move forward, make progress, kids are happy, and we have some things to work on, but that's okay. We're all do it. We're a great team. We can do it. So I just want to say thank you to everybody, and thank you to Sean for coming and taking minutes. I don't know if you know this, but I've been doing this for about 15 years.
Yeah.
Coming up on my 16th year of not missing, I think I've missed one board meeting. But just to see the progress we've made over the years, it's very exciting to be able to leave that legacy of having worked with all of you. And I've just appreciated seeing that we're going to leave this district in a better state than when I came to the district 19 years ago. So this is my 35th year in education. I just turned 59 yesterday.
Wow,
and I was
happy
thinking,
birthday.
wow, 35 years. I never would have thought that in the very beginning, but no, it's because just the energy of the kids, the excitement of going to school every day. It's never a dull moment. I look forward to getting up every day, getting in there and just working with just excited children who are just incredible, creative, inspiring. So it's just been a gift. And I thank Orinda for sharing that gift with me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any cabinet updates?
There are no cabinet updates tonight.
Any board reports? Hillary?
I'll just keep it brief. It's actually been a pretty busy couple of weeks. I went to the mayor's meeting last week. So it's just a nice, Latika ran it because Darlene's and Topper, yes. But just a great meeting. Then came here for a Orinda meeting, which I already kind of mentioned. It was nice to have John Nicholson there, and I think Aida will be coming next month. I think kind of the hope is maybe to have the superintendents maybe rotate or join that meeting a little bit more. Had a first site visit at Delray, which also included the parent club meeting right before, and actually had a great turnout, a lot of new faces there. So that was kind of fun to see and nice just to get in the classrooms and see, everything. So I'm sure there's more, but that's
great.
Yeah.
Similarly, I was on a visit to OAS. It was really positive. A lot of good stuff going on there. Seemed like a really strong start to the year. I'm looking forward to all of our site visits, actually, having gone to OAS, which will be here soon enough. And I think between the last regular meeting and this one, we had our board workshop. I really appreciate having that time to be a little more collaborative. I think that went well. And then just the usual meetings coming up for us.
Yeah, likewise, I think, sorry, I'm just checking at the calendar. I have the Wagner Ranch one coming up in a couple weeks, which I look forward to actually make this and get to see what's going on at that school. And I'm always spending lots of time at Sleepy Hollow. So, and I've been in other places too for soccer. So, but it is exciting to see the kids back on campus. And as was mentioned at the last meeting, just to continue to see the improvements in the physical plans of the various schools too. Then I'll turn it over.
Yeah, so the VPs of the neighboring district met with the county superintendent, Lam Mackey, the other day, which was wonderful to meet her and hear the information she shared. And then Las Trampas Creek Council is in planning mode for their advocacy week. So I'll share whatever with you comes my way, and looking forward to all the other site visits this weekend, the board coffee.
Yeah, board coffee, right?
Yes.
That's great.
On Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday at Geppetto's.
Yes.
I'd like to mention that, the Teacher of the Year Awards is Thursday night, and I'm unable to go. And I don't know if any of the other board members are free Thursday night and would like to go, but let Brian know.
Do you need to let Brian know
Right now.
maybe before you leave?
It would be great if someone could go.
Yeah.
I think, Brian,
We will be there and represent.
yes. But congratulations again to our
Yeah.
the year, Michelle.
Yeah.
And we had a bus meeting. The bus company has to go out for contract renewal. And so we're hopeful that we're going to get competitive bids, because 5 years ago when we did this, we only had one bid, and that was, high. So we're hopeful that we'll get competitive bids. The bidding is underway. The bid process has started, and we're waiting to get those back, but we're expecting there'll be a fairly good size increase in the costs. But hopefully if there's competitive bidding, it'll hold them down. So
There seems to be pretty steady demand, at least I can tell you that one.
yeah, no, the demand seems really strong. The buses are running really full.
A lot of people didn't get the bus.
Right.
They're actually so full.
So full, people aren't getting them.
Yeah.
They tried to sign up within like a few minutes.
Yes.
My gosh.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And Orinda has more bus service than the other towns. But I don't think we'll be able to get more yet, even though we're running pretty full.
And is that something that we put into the bid? I think we could make this isn't appropriate for this update, but be an interesting topic to discuss.
Would be happy to.
We'll need a new bus.
We'll need a new bus person come December, so be careful, don't ask too many questions or it could be you.
I heard.
There you go. I've enjoyed the bus committee. It's a good group of people and it's nice working with the other cities and school board members. So, and Whitney Simon does a good job. So, yeah, it's a good committee. We had coordinating council, which I thought was very good. It seems like there've been a lot of meetings, but we'll just continue to go to meetings.
There will be more of them as we start up our committees.
Exactly.
That to happen.
Okay, so on to the consent calendar. Items listed under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and are acted on by the Board of Trustees in one motion. There's no discussion of these items before the board vote unless a member of the board, staff, or public requests specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar. It is understood that the administration recommends approval of all consent items. Each item on the consent calendar approved by the board shall be deemed to have been considered in full and adopted as recommended. Would anyone like to pull anything from the consent calendar? No public comment. Would someone like to make a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Hillary, I move that we approve the consent calendar.
This is Etta, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. The motion carries. So now we're on to future agenda items. We scheduled this board
Yeah, so we have a
workshop.
board workshop on Friday, September 27th to discuss specifically Wagner Ranch Nature Area. We may have just a couple of small items just in between the meetings, but really that's the focus of it. And then we'll be here in the afternoon. We do have a CBOC tour happening this Thursday. So our CBOC committee wanted to see some project. We had initially scheduled that for August, but that notification went out this morning. So I'll be going around with them and just really they want to see the progress.
Yep.
But other than that, we'll be back in October and we'll have our food service here. Actually, I think plan on bringing some food.
Just gonna, Charles gonna feed us.
Yes, Charles is going to be here. An assessment report and equity presentation. The data is available. We are always dependent on the state to be able to allow us to release the data. So that's our plan. And then we determine if that data is actually available. And if not, we'll do some flip-flopping, but that's the plan for now. And then we'll bring you the site plans, demographic study and literacy in November.
Great. With that, would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Hillary, I move that we adjourn.
Steve, I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
No opposition. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, everyone.
Good.